With Ventress's return to the Bad Batch Season 3, there have been lots of conversation about her that have been reopened. Researchers once again have looked into the novels such as Dark Disciple in order to gain clarity on what we might see when she returns. But within those texts, we found something fascinating. When Darth Sidious ordered Dooku to kill Ventress, he accused his apprentice of using Ventress to overthrow him, something that Dooku would quickly deny. However, it's been a part of our speculation for a while now that Dooku was indeed trying to train Ventress to possibly aid him in toppling the Dark Lord. Within the very pages of Dark Disciple, this is all but confirmed when Dooku tells Ventress that he's gone to use Voss to destroy Sidious, and Ventress remarks that she remembers the two of them once having the same discussion, and that it was her role that with Dooku, they would kill Sidious. With this in fact canon, it brings up an interesting topic of discussion, which is that clearly both Sith Lords saw something very special in Asajj, with Dooku himself once believing that she might be his best chance at defeating his master, Lord Sidious. So, join us today as we examine and look at Ventress and what makes her so incredibly dangerous as a Force wielder, someone who Dooku believed may have the potential to help him kill Sidious, and why Sidious himself was even afraid of this. Before we begin though, we have had a terrible vision in the Force. Many of you who have visited our archives have not yet subscribed to our order, so if you've been enjoying the daily Star Wars lore, reach out and crush that subscribe button. It is your destiny. When examining the overwhelming threat that Ventress was not only to the Jedi, but to the Sith, we must first look at her heritage. Although Ventress wouldn't know the Nightsisters until later in her life, they didn't stop her from developing all the key traits that came with being born of Dathomir. The Nightsisters only mated with those that they found to be strong in the Force in order to continue the bloodline. Through a very selective breeding process, Nightsister females chose males of either the Zabrak or the human species to produce an offspring extremely strong. This was why most of the Nightsisters were powerful and dangerous warriors, able to manipulate the magic of Dathomir extremely easily. Whether or not she knew her family, Ventress always had the classic connection that the Nightsisters specifically had bred into her, and it would be through this that Dooku would discover that she had an aptitude for the advanced teachings of the dark side, and was naturally drawn to the dark side. You see, not just anyone who embraces the dark side can specialize in things such as sorcery or alchemy. There are other facets of the dark power that can only be accessed and manipulated by those with the necessary traits in order to inherit them. Ventress, born of Dathomir and Sith trained, had the potential to become something terrifying as a Dark Lady. Wisely, Tyrannus didn't want Ventress to discover this trait just yet, as she could use her ancestral powers to overthrow him if given the chance, not knowing her true max potential. Instead, Dooku had her feverishly train and specialize in lightsaber combat, keeping her connection to the Force just powerful enough to be useful, but not so strong that she could attempt to kill him. But even interference from Dooku would not stop her powers from showing. But importantly, Ventress was also crafted during wartime, and just like individuals like Anakin and Obi-Wan also became more powerful when engaging in constant warfare, so too did Ventress. The two Jedi would be sharpened by the Clone Wars. Whether Anakin enjoyed it and Obi-Wan did not was irrelevant. The truth was that battle was honing them into powerful wielders of the Force, and it did the same for Asajj. While the Jedi were leading armies into battle, Ventress learned how to manipulate the shadows, increasing her abilities as an assassin and frequently engaging in lightsaber combat. Ventress sized herself up against many kinds of opponents, clones, bounty hunters, and several Jedi. All while she was growing stronger, she may not have always been as successful as Dooku would have liked, but surely he was sensing that she was rapidly growing in power, skill, and experience. This is also a fact that although Dooku steered her away from the more advanced applications of the dark side in order to keep her power levels low, Dooku did not shortchange her lightsaber combat training. And the one thing that Dooku takes the most pride in wouldn't allow him not to give her the best education. As a Jedi, Dooku was known for producing some of the most unique and powerful apprentices, and this trend would continue with Ventress as she became a deadly weapon. With one lightsaber or two, Ventress was a fierce opponent in a duel, competing with Kenobi, Skywalker, and even two of them at once, sharpening her skill against the greatest duelist that the era had to offer. On the subject of lightsaber training, It does seem curious that Dooku would train Ventress to fight with 2 blades instead of 1, especially since he always championed the use of a single blade. It's currently our theory though, that Dooku did this to keep both Ventress's hands occupied in order to mitigate her from using force powers, and tapping into that aspect of her abilities of Dathomir. It's for this reason that Sidious and Dooku share a common fear of Ventress, her aptitude for Nightsister magic, and her potential. This is where we get into the meat of Ventress's power. While Sidious himself once traded secrets with Mother Talzin on Dathomir and studied Nightsister magic and power, even he admitted that he doesn't really know how it works, but does know that it is incredibly dangerous even to him. A dark side threat that Sidious identifies is rare, and for Sidious to admit that he doesn't understand a facet of the dark side is even more so. Sidious was so frightened that he made sure to position the Nightsisters in an area where they could not grab for such power, and even went as far as to holding his personal belongings close to his person, ensuring that the Nightsisters could not grab his cloak or at his lightsaber, fearing what could happen if they received even the slightest edge. He even made sure that they could not touch his hair. Dooku would learn this the hard way when Talzin used just one of his hairs to make a doll and then torture him through the Force. Dooku nearly died to Talzin's hand that day in the Clone War, as she made festering boils and sores appear on his skin like an ancient plague, causing him to writhe around in unimaginable agony. Dooku was at the mercy of a power that he was unready to stop. Powerless, rare for the Count. The only thing he could do was order Grievous to kill Mother Talzin before he died to her power. This is terrifying. Dooku is obviously no lightweight when it came to the Force or the dark side, and yet he was nearly killed by the Nightsisters because of a single strand of hair. Sidious feared this power as he wasn't able to comprehend exactly what it was and what facet of the Force that the Nightsisters obeyed. The idea that Ventress, a Dathomirian born, Sith trained, could create a volatile cocktail, one that even the Sith and the Nightsisters would be forced to bow to the mercy of, merging the dark side from 2 different galaxies. Absolutely horrific stuff. The Sith have struggled to understand magic while they have mastered Sith sorcery, and there is a difference, my friends, a big one. Nightsister magic has to do with the natural space, whereas Sith sorcery fools with what is unnatural. The Sith always trying to twist and corrupt what is to create what they will with their own minds, dominating the world around them through the dark side to lift themselves up as gods. The Nightsisters take a different approach. They wield the dark side and the Ichor of Dathomir, which originates from Peridia, to influence the natural world to simply advance itself. They work with the natural order of the dark side instead of against it, using evolution instead of mutation. The truth of the matter is that the dark side of the Force works different with the Nightsisters. It is kinder to them, if you will. The witches submit to the dark side rather than attempting to dominate it and bend it like the Sith. They are strangely Jedi-like in this way, but their approach is not to the light, it is to the nature of the dark. They are very unique. They create a symbiotic relationship to the dark side itself, something that the Sith cannot wrap their heads around. This comes from the sisters' feelings of fear, passion, and the care for community. Ventress learns all of these things when she comes home and initiates herself as a sister. The reason we know this is because of how the dark side acts with Obi-Wan as well as Quinlan when they enter the cavern to bury Ventress, a cavern that has belonged to the Nightsisters for generations. This is the passage from Dark Disciple. As they approached the open mouth of the fortress, Kenobi said, "Are you absolutely certain about this, Quinlan? The dark side is very strong within." "It is," Voss agreed. "But for this moment, the dark side is not our enemy. Can't you sense it?" He watched as Kenobi took a deep breath, reaching out into the Force. His eyebrows rose as he experienced what Voss could feel. Puzzlement flitted across his bearded face, and he looked at Voss curiously. "Why not?" Kenobi asks, and Voss responds, "Here, the dark side belongs to the Nightsisters, and we are returning one of their own. I don't know how I know it, but that I do." My friends, the dark side has never been known to be kind to the Jedi regardless of circumstance. Never has the dark side shown pity for someone burying a Sith Lord. The dark side is cruel to the Sith as they are with it. but Quinlan Vos even crudely explains why. Dathomir, the dark side here, belongs to the Nightsisters, indicating that it works differently. It responds to the passion with which they treat each other, and the preciousness in which they regard their community. Ventress would eventually die for these things. Ventress died protecting one that she loved and making a sacrifice. The Nightsisters responded in this way, and the dark side reacted just as strongly, enough to allow the Jedi to pass in and out of its domain unharmed. Despite having major differences, there is a lot of common ground for the Jedi and the Nightsister Coven. This much is proven with Merrin's friendship of Cal Kestis. Had Ventress ever discovered this, she would have become something truly unstoppable to the Sith, a real, genuine threat. While Dooku and Sidious didn't know the specifics about the Nightsister magic, they did know that a marriage between it and the teachings of the Sith which they imparted upon Ventress resulted in a rival so powerful that it would threaten to overthrow all of Sidious's plans. Whether or not Ventress is able to kill him directly, or impart upon the Jedi some form of dark side teachings that do not corrupt absolutely. Maybe one day this concept will be explored in full justice. But that is why, my friends, why Asajj Ventress was in truth one of the greatest threats to Sidious and Dooku, and how they both came to realize this. As always, my friends, thank you so much for visiting our channel today. I hope you enjoyed, and may the Force be with you.